You ever have one of those moments where you just know something's off? That was me, standing on my own porch holding a takeout bag from our favorite Indian place, blinking at the soft glow inside my house. It wasn't the lights that threw me, it was the voices. Two of them. Hers and someone else's. A man. And laughter. I wasn't supposed to be home. My meeting had been canceled 20 minutes before I was set to present to a room full of investors something about a delayed connecting flight out of Atlanta. I texted Haley, told her I'd just pick up dinner and surprise her. That part was true. I just didn't expect to be the one getting surprised. Instead of going in through the front, I circled around the side yard, stepping carefully through the mulch so I wouldn't be heard. The curtains in the kitchen weren't drawn. I saw them before they saw me. There she was, my wife, leaning against the island, barefoot in a soft sweater I'd never seen before. And standing close, too close, was a man in a button-down shirt holding a glass of red wine. Haley was laughing, her hand resting on his chest like it belonged there. She was glowing in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. And not because of me. I stood frozen just outside the window, my heartbeat slowing with an eerie calm. I didn't burst in. I didn't say a word. I just watched. He said something, I couldn't hear it, but it made her laugh again, the kind of laugh that came from her belly and curled into her eyes. The kind of laugh I hadn't been able to get out of her for months. Then she saw me. I didn't flinch. I didn't move. Our eyes locked for a split second, and in that split second, everything changed. She tensed. The smile dropped. Her hand snapped back like she'd touched a stove. The man turned, followed her gaze, and stiffened. Haley stepped toward the door, quick, smooth, like she'd rehearsed this. Miles, she said as she opened the back door, her tone even, unbothered, I didn't know you were coming back this early. I stepped inside, the air thick with the scent of wine and rosemary. My voice didn't come right away, but my eyes did all the talking. She tucked her hair behind her ear and nodded toward the man behind her. This is Nathan. We went to school together, he's in town consulting for a logistics project, and we were just catching up. I told you about him, remember? I didn't remember. I never heard of a Nathan. Nathan stepped forward, hand extended. Hey man, nice to meet you. Sorry, didn't mean to intrude. I didn't take his hand. Haley's smile faltered just a hair. We were talking about a potential collaboration. He's got a few startup ideas in warehousing automation. I thought it might be helpful to share notes. It was a tightrope act, the way she said it. So casual. So practiced. I dropped the takeout bag on the counter and looked at the empty wine bottle beside the sink. 2 glasses. A plate of brie and crackers. A lit candle, not scented, just decorative, flickering softly like this was some low-key date night. And then she pivoted. I can see that look, Miles, she said, arms folding. Please don't do this right now. You have a habit of making things out to be worse than they are. Things? I asked quietly. I mean, you show up unannounced, don't give me a heads up, and now suddenly I'm being interrogated in my own kitchen? Because I had a glass of wine with someone I used to know? My stomach flipped. That's when I knew. She wasn't trying to explain, she was trying to flip the script. You always get like this, she continued, voice rising just enough. Controlling. Paranoid. It's exhausting, Miles. Nathan shifted uncomfortably beside the stove. I could tell he wanted to disappear. Good. I wanted him gone too. I didn't answer right away. I just picked up the takeout bag and walked it over to the fridge. I brought dinner, I said, tone flat. I already ate, she replied, not missing a beat. Of course she had. Nathan mumbled something about having to get up early and thanked Haley for the chat. She walked him to the door and I heard a hushed exchange. No kisses. No dramatic goodbyes. Just 2 people pretending this wasn't what it looked like. When she came back in, I was standing in the middle of the kitchen, still not speaking. She crossed her arms again. You're acting ridiculous, she said. I finally met her eyes. You think I'm the problem here? She stared at me like I was inconveniencing her. You always do this. You twist things. You assume the worst instead of asking me directly. It's like I'm constantly being monitored. There it was. The switch. The subtle accusation. The suggestion that I was somehow at fault for showing up, for having eyes, for daring to question something that felt wrong. I shook my head slowly. Do you hear yourself right now? She didn't answer. Just walked past me, grabbed her glass of wine off the island and took a sip like it was just another Wednesday. But for me, everything had shifted. It was subtle. No explosions. No screaming. Just the faint click of a lock coming loose in the back of my mind. A quiet awareness that something deeper was happening here, and I just stepped into the shallows of it. And I knew then, this was only the beginning. After that night, everything felt different. I tried to tell myself I was overreacting. I tried to pretend it was innocent, that Nathan really was just an old classmate who happened to be in town, and that Haley's laughter, the wine, the candlelight, her hand on his chest, somehow they all meant nothing. But my gut didn't buy it. And once your gut stops trusting, your mind follows. It doesn't ask for permission. That night, while she was in the shower, I sat in bed and stared at the ceiling, trying to find where it all started to go wrong. But the harder I looked, the further back it went. There wasn't one big explosion, just 1,000 quiet cracks I had ignored. She had been working late more and more over the last few months. At first, I chalked it up to the new product launch her company had been raving about. But that launch came and went. The late nights didn't. I'd ask her what kept her so long, and she'd wave it off with the usual, meetings ran over, or we went out for drinks afterward, networking, you know? Always networking. Apparently, her field required a hell of a lot of Chardonnay. She started dressing differently too. Nothing obvious at first. But then it became clear. Higher heels. Tighter skirts. Blouses that looked like they belonged in a club, not a conference room. She had a glow to her, but it wasn't one I recognized. Not one that came from me. I remember the first time she changed her perfume. It hit me when I went to hug her goodbye one morning, something richer, bolder. It lingered. It didn't smell like her. It smelled like the idea of someone new. And then there was her phone. The screen used to light up all the time while we watched TV together. Now it was always face down. Locked. Always silent. I once saw her get a notification and swipe it away like it burned. And when I asked her who it was, she smiled and said, just some group chat stuff. But her eyes didn't match her smile. One Saturday, I found her phone on the bathroom counter while she was out for a run. I didn't plan on checking it, didn't even unlock it. But I noticed something strange, no recent texts. No call log. No open apps. It was like she'd scrubbed it clean. That was the first time I felt afraid. Then came the receipt. It was late April, a Wednesday, I think. I was cleaning out her car while she was on a call inside. I found it crumpled up between the seats, nothing special at first glance. Just a dinner tab from a trendy place downtown. The kind of place you make reservations for. The kind of place with candlelight and tasting menus. The date on the receipt was 2 weeks prior. A Friday night. I remember it clearly because that was the night she said she was at a girls' spa retreat out in Napa. A last-minute invite from a coworker. She'd even sent me a blurry photo of wine glasses and robes. But the receipt told a different story. 2 entrees. 1 bottle of wine. A dessert for 2. And the tip? Generous. Like someone trying to impress. I kept the receipt. I didn't mention it. I needed more. That week, she came home late 3 times. Once, she claimed her rideshare app glitched and routed her halfway across town. Another night, she said her phone died and she had to borrow someone else's charger. Each story felt like a borrowed excuse from someone else's bad sitcom. On Friday, I casually asked if she wanted to go out, just the 2 of us. A nice dinner. Reconnect. She smiled and said she was exhausted from work, maybe next week. Then she disappeared into the bedroom to answer a call with the door closed. I didn't sleep well after that. My brain kept spinning scenarios. I wasn't even thinking about Nathan anymore. He was just one piece of a puzzle I didn't have all the edges to. Even her body language had changed. When we'd sit on the couch, she used to lean into me. Rest her head on my shoulder. Now, there was always space between us, like she needed a buffer zone. Her kisses were different too. Quick. Dutiful. Like checking a box. Once we were at a friend's baby shower. Someone asked if we were thinking of starting a family. Haley laughed it off and said, not anytime soon, too much going on right now. I smiled and nodded, but something inside me cracked. We talked about kids last year. We even had names picked out. Now, it was like that conversation never happened. She started making excuses to leave the house alone. Groceries. Yoga. Target runs. But she never came back with much. A few times I noticed she'd reapply makeup before going to get coffee. Who gets dolled up to run errands on a Sunday? One day I followed her. She said she was going to a Pilates class. I waited 5 minutes and then got in my car. I didn't tail her like in the movies, no sunglasses and trench coat. I just happened to drive the same way. She never made it to the fitness studio. Instead, she pulled into a small cafe near the waterfront. I parked a block away and watched as she sat alone. Until she wasn't. 10 minutes later, a man joined her. I couldn't see his face clearly, but the hug was long. Familiar. Too familiar. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I was gathering puzzle pieces. One by one. Quietly. Because I knew when the time came, I wouldn't just be confronting her. I'd be confronting the version of me that believed we were happy. The version that saw love where there was only convenience. The version that trusted. I wanted to be sure. I needed the whole picture before I walked away from the frame. And in that moment, sitting in my car on a side street, watching my wife sip lattes and smile at a man who wasn't me, I knew whatever version of us I was clinging to, it didn't exist anymore. Not really. That Friday started like any other. I made coffee. Haley floated through the kitchen in her robe, scrolling through her phone, humming to some song she never sang before. We exchanged small talk, weather, deadlines, a reminder to water the plants. It was the choreography of familiarity, every move rehearsed and hollow. But under the surface, I was ready. The night before, while she was asleep, I installed tracking software on her phone, something I never imagined myself doing. I told myself it was a desperate measure, one I didn't take lightly, but the lies had grown too smooth, too polished. I needed the truth even if it destroyed me. That evening, around 6:15, she told me she'd be going to Kara's house, her supposed friend from the office. Girls' wine night, she said. Nothing fancy. You don't mind, right? I smiled. Of course not. Have fun. She kissed me on the cheek and disappeared upstairs. When she came down 30 minutes later, she looked different. Her makeup was just a touch more dramatic. Lips too red for a casual hangout. Her earrings sparkled a little too brightly. The front door closed behind her like a G***NSH**T. I sat in the living room waiting. 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed. The app was working. Her location pinged nowhere near Kara's place. Instead, it marked a townhouse development on the far edge of the city. Not even close to the neighborhood she mentioned. I stared at the map for a long time, not moving. Then I stood, grabbed my coat, and drove. The GPS led me through a maze of suburban streets, the kind lined with identical mailboxes and two-car garages. I parked a few houses down from the destination and waited, engine off, heart slamming against my ribs. 10 minutes passed. Then I saw her. She stepped onto the balcony of the second floor, barefoot, wearing pajamas, his pajamas probably. A hoodie way too large for her and a glass of wine in hand. She leaned into the rail, laughing at something I couldn't hear. And then he came out. The man I'd seen in our kitchen that night. Nathan. He stood behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist, and pulled her close. She didn't resist. She tilted her head back against his chest. They looked like a couple at home, comfortable in each other's space. Not sneaking, not hiding, just being. Candlelight flickered behind them inside the room. A wine bottle sat on a table half gone. Music played low, jazzy like before. I recognized the tune. She used to play it in our living room. I raised my phone and took the photos. I zoomed in, captured the balcony, her smile, his hand around her waist, the setting sun casting everything in gold. It looked like a painting, a betrayal painted in perfect light. I didn't cry, didn't scream. I just drove. The whole way home, I felt like a ghost in my own life. Every traffic light, every familiar turn, I felt farther from the man who'd kissed her goodbye an hour ago. That version of me no longer existed. He died quietly in a parked car beneath a balcony. Back at the house, I went straight to my office, pulled the photos off my phone, and saved them on a flash drive. Then I printed them, 6 in total. I placed them in a folder and labeled it with her name. Just her first name. That was all it took now. When she returned hours later, she was quiet. Her face was flushed, a touch of sweat on her brow. She said Kara had cooked a crazy Thai dish that nearly led us all, and that they lost track of time laughing about work drama. I nodded. Sounds fun. She kissed my cheek again. I didn't flinch. She went upstairs. I stayed downstairs, listening to the soft creak of the floorboards above, the sound of her brushing her teeth, her drawer opening, her slippers against hardwood. And I sat there, perfectly still, holding that folder in my lap like it was a grenade, because it was. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She made eggs, wore my hoodie, asked if I wanted to drive up the coast Sunday, just to get out of the city. She was making plans. For us, for a future. Like she hadn't just built a whole other life without me. I told her I'd think about it. Later that day, I went to the bank. I started the process of moving funds into a private account she couldn't access. I began freezing cards she had duplicates of. Every move I made was quiet, surgical, precise. I even called a locksmith. By Tuesday, I had a furnished apartment downtown. Small, efficient, nothing fancy, but it was mine. A place without the scent of her perfume on every pillow. Without the ghost of laughter I now questioned. That night I didn't come home. No warning. No note. I turned off my phone and went dark. She called. A lot. Left messages that ranged from confused to panicked. Where are you? Did something happen? Are you okay? Then, this is scaring me, Miles. Please call me. I didn't respond. Not yet. I wanted her to feel it, the weight of silence. The cold space where certainty used to live. She couldn't trace where I was. The lease was in the name of a holding company I controlled. The bank accounts? Cleared. She tried logging into our joint email locked. Cards? Declined. And still I said nothing. Because for the first time in years, I was finally hearing myself think. And what I heard was this. I was done. Completely, unapologetically done. No more questions. No more second chances. No more illusions. Only truth. Only forward. She must have felt it the moment she walked through the front door. The energy was different. Not messy, not chaotic, just hollow. Like something had been peeled out of the house and all that was left was its shell. I wasn't there. Neither was my key on the entry hook, my laptop on the table, or my toothbrush in the holder. My side of the bed was made with military precision, as if no one had ever slept there. She must have called me a dozen times before realizing my number no longer worked. I deactivated the phone we shared on our family plan. My new number was private, registered under the LLC that also leased my apartment and now technically owned the home she stood in. A logistics shell company. Clean, legal, untraceable. The utilities? Rerouted and paid for through that same company. She wouldn't be able to contact anyone without triggering red tape. And I made sure of that. Months earlier, when I first suspected she was pulling away, I quietly began untangling our lives. I hadn't even told her. That was the thing. She thought she had the power to disappear emotionally while keeping me close physically. Thought she could divide her life into compartments. Me in one, Nathan in another, and move between them like it was normal. But now she was the one left in the fog. She emailed me multiple times. The subject lines said it all. Where are you? Please talk to me. I don't understand what's happening. They bounced back. I'd shut down the joint Gmail account. The server I hosted it on had been decommissioned. My new address? A cryptic sequence hosted on a private domain. She couldn't guess it if she tried. She tried. My lawyer got the first formal message from hers 3 days later. Haley Green is seeking contact with her husband Miles Green regarding an urgent matter of marital and financial concern. Please respond. We didn't, because I wasn't interested in conversations. Not yet, especially not with a woman who, 7 days prior, had been wrapped in another man's hoodie, sipping wine under a sunset like it was her honeymoon. She came back to the house again that Thursday. I watched it happen through the security system I'd installed, the one she forgot about because it was discreet. It sent me still images and clips whenever someone entered through the front or back. I got the alert as she pulled up in her car. In the footage, she fumbled with her key. The lock wouldn't turn. I changed them all. She knocked, waited, knocked again, harder this time. Then she tried calling my old number. The screen showed no service. She stood on the porch for a long time, visibly unraveling. Eventually, she sat on the front step, her phone in her lap, face in her hands. She stayed there for nearly an hour. Then she left. I didn't feel sorry. That Friday, she went to our accountant's office and tried to access our tax files. The receptionist, who I had already briefed, handed her a form and said, "I'm sorry, but you're not authorized to request anything. Mr. Green has restructured the accounts under corporate control." She left, visibly shaken, and according to the assistant's email, muttered something about needing to call her mother. I don't know if she did, because 3 days later her mother called me. Well, she tried. Her name popped up on the burner I kept for emergencies. I let it ring out. Then I texted, "Please respect my decision. Haley knows why this is happening. I wish you peace." No response. Her sister tried next. Then her brother. One after another. Eventually, those calls stopped too, because by then the story had started to spread. Not from me. Not from some dramatic post online or whisper campaign. No, just from absence. I had vanished from Haley's world. And that silence was louder than any confrontation could have been. I didn't go on social media. I didn't check her pages, though I heard from a mutual friend she started posting throwback photos of us. Vacation pics, wedding day sh*ts, anniversary dinners, caption with things like, "Miss this," hoping to fix what we broke. It wasn't just manipulative. It was calculated. A bid for sympathy, for narrative control. But no one played along. Within a week, mutual friends started unfollowing her. One blocked her. I know this because someone forwarded me a message she'd sent in a group chat, pleading, "Why is everyone turning on me?" They didn't reply. Later, I'd learned that 2 friends from my circle, people I rarely talk to anymore, had seen her with Nathan. Not once. Several times. They hadn't told me because they assumed I knew. They weren't exactly subtle, one friend said. "I didn't want to stir things if you were already separated." We weren't. At least not back then. Now, we were separated by a canyon of lies, and I was finally on the other side. By the following week, she'd packed a bag and left the house entirely. Her car was gone from the driveway. The Ring camera showed no movement. For all I knew, she was bouncing between couches, chasing explanations. But me, I was at peace. I kept a quiet routine in my downtown apartment. Early mornings, long walks. I brought a French press and filled the shelves with novels I never had time for. I cooked for myself, something I hadn't done in years, and rediscovered the simplicity of eating alone. I felt lighter, not happy, not yet, but weightless in a way I didn't think possible. I started sleeping through the night. The silence, once deafening, became a kind of music, a signal that I had survived the worst of it and emerged intact. And maybe that was enough. For now. By the 3rd week of silence, the cracks started showing. Not in me, I was past breaking, but in her. Haley had always been the composed one, the planner, the fixer, the type to wrap a lie in a bow and present it as just a misunderstanding. But when the rug finally got pulled from under her, she stumbled. Hard. It began with the calls. First to me, then to my lawyer, then to mutual contacts who hadn't heard from her in years. People she once considered peripheral suddenly became essential, because I was gone and she needed someone, anyone, who still believed her version of events. But they didn't. One by one, they either ghosted her or offered tight-lipped condolences and polite distance. Some unfollowed her online. Some blocked her. A few even sent me quiet messages of support. Not gossipy, just simple acknowledgments. Saw the video. Can't imagine what that felt like. Just know you're not crazy. The video. Yeah. That had been the final touch. 2 weeks after I left, her sister's husband sent me footage from their backyard camera. I hadn't asked for it. I didn't even know it existed. But there it was. Haley, mid-rage, pushing me out the door during one of our last arguments, yelling something I couldn't make out, then dousing me in water from a tumbler she hurled down the steps after me. Apparently, Haley had visited her sister the following weekend, looking for a couch and a reset button. She hadn't expected anyone to confront her, not face to face. But her brother-in-law, the quiet one, the guy who used to chuckle at my bad grill jokes, had shown her the clip from their security feed. "You should see how you treat people," he reportedly told her, phone still in hand. "Especially the ones who loved you." She left that house within the hour. No suitcase. No goodbye. From there, she went to her mother's. Or tried to. I only found out what happened because her mother sent me a letter. Not an email. Not a call. A letter. Handwritten. I opened it with zero expectations. Inside was a single page, short and careful. Miles, I don't know what my daughter has done in full, but I can see that she's not the same person she was. I won't pretend to understand what happened between you two. But I do know this, you were good to her. I saw that. You don't owe her anything, least of all your forgiveness. But I hope someday, when you're ready, you'll find peace in whatever path you choose. Be well. M. That was it. No apologies on Haley's behalf. No pleading. Just acknowledgement. And honestly, it meant more than any voicemail or apology ever could. I heard through a friend of a friend that Haley was staying in a short-term rental by the freeway. Not the cozy downtown lofts she used to envy on Zillow. This place was older. No washer-dryer. Street parking. The kind of spot you book when you're in between everything. I didn't reach out. I didn't need to. Her life was speaking loud enough. Another week passed and her name started popping up in stranger places. A former coworker told me she tried to get her old position back, the one she left voluntarily to chase Nathan's startup fantasy. But the role had been filled. And her manager, who I'd met once at a company retreat, had heard about her exit and was not eager to re-engage. In her world, every door she'd walked through now slammed behind her. Nathan? Gone. I never confirmed when exactly it happened, but based on what I heard, he left town shortly after I vanished. Word was his business prospects had dried up and so had the thrill of sneaking around. The secrecy had been the fuel. And once it burned out, so did whatever fantasy they'd built. He never came to her defense. Never messaged me. Never showed up with some grand apology or confession. He vanished like smoke. Haley, on the other hand, was stuck. She tried rebuilding her image. At least online. Throwback photos? Motivational quotes. The kind of curated sadness you scroll past with a vague sense of second-hand discomfort. But it didn't land. People knew. Not from me. Not from gossip. But from how she acted once the story fell apart. How she grasped. How she spun. How she avoided specifics but begged for sympathy. Eventually, even her curated feeds went dark. No more new beginnings hashtags. No more solo brunch sh*ts. Just silence. Meanwhile, I moved forward not out of vengeance but out of necessity. Because I had no interest in circling the wreckage. I was building something new. I picked up running again. Nothing fast, just long laps around the park while the city woke up. I joined a small co-working space a few blocks from my apartment. Not because I needed the office, but because I wanted to hear different voices, different energy. One morning, I found an envelope slid under the door. No name. No stamp. Inside was a letter. Haley's handwriting. Miles? I know you won't read this. Or maybe you will. Either way, I need to say it, I messed everything up. I see that now. You didn't deserve what I did, not the lying, the secrecy, or the way I tried to spin it back on you. That was cowardice. I've lost more than I thought possible. Not just you. Me. I lost who I used to be. I don't expect you to forgive me. But if there's a part of you that still remembers who we were, I thank you for that. For loving me the way you did. I'll carry that. Even if it's all I have left. I folded it neatly and placed it in a drawer with the others. Because yes, there had been others. Drips of remorse disguised as outreach. Each one a little more raw, a little less curated. But the outcome was always the same. Silence. Not out of cruelty. Out of clarity. Haley had built her house on distraction and denial. And now she stood in its ruins, alone. That was the consequence. Not my rage. Not revenge. Just the absence of the man who once tried to build everything around her. And in that absence, she met herself for the first time. It had been a month since I disappeared from her life. Long enough for people to stop asking questions, but not long enough for Haley to stop searching for answers she'd never get. I kept my head down, focused on work, on moving forward, on quietly rebuilding. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about what came next. The opportunity came sooner than expected. A logistics summit in Dallas, a massive one, where the best in the industry gathered to trade ideas, secure deals, and brag a little. I had been invited to speak. Not just a panel or a fireside chat, but the keynote. Prime time. I almost declined. Then I realized it was exactly the kind of chapter break I needed. My team helped me craft the presentation. On the surface, it was about infrastructure, trust in supply chains, and adaptability. But beneath that, woven carefully between case studies and charts, was a story. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. The crowd was sharp, full of people who'd known me, Haley, and Nathan for years. People who had shared dinners with us, seen our photos on holiday cards, maybe even toasted to our anniversary once upon a time. The presentation built slowly. Data, growth, disruption. And then, a slide of a house. My house. A quiet voiceover, the foundation of any enterprise, business or personal, is trust. Break it and no matter how beautiful it looks on the outside, it collapses. Next, screenshot asterisk TS of account logins, a map of a location ping, and finally, a photograph. Not graphic, just distant enough to feel safe. A woman on a balcony. A man behind her. Candlelight. A lie frozen in time. You could hear the breath leave the room. No outrage. No murmurs. Just silence. Because they knew. And then calmly, I transitioned back to business. Closed on a quote about resilience. Took my bow. Walked off stage. By the time I left the building, Haley had already been escorted out by security. She tried to enter quietly, wearing dark sunglasses like she could blend in. But the moment the slides began, she panicked. Witnesses said she stood, walked fast, almost ran. No one stopped her. Not one person asked if she was okay. It was over. For everyone. 2 years later, I rarely thought of her anymore. Occasionally, someone would ask, "Hey, whatever happened to?" And I'd just smile and say, "Life happened." Because it did. Life moved on. I moved on. I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving. I'd taken the pain and built something real from it. Our company, mine now, was booming. Forbes had listed me as one of the year's top innovators in transport infrastructure. I had a place in Miami, another in Seattle. I traveled, spoke, taught, led. And I never looked back. Until one day, I passed a grocery store near one of our fulfillment hubs. And there she was. Haley. Hair messy. Clothes faded. Holding a cardboard sign that read, "Looking for work. Anything helps." I stopped at the crosswalk. She hadn't seen me yet, and I didn't want her to. She looked up, just as the light changed, and for a brief moment our eyes locked. Her mouth opened like she might call out, but I turned, and kept walking, not out of cruelty, out of peace. There was no more rage, no bitterness, just recognition. She'd revealed who she was, and I had nothing left to give. No attention, no apology, no second act, just silence. The kind that says, "You no longer live here," and I never looked back.